click on that. It'll, at the bottom will say mute all. Oh, we lost your audio.
Can we do that now?
Tell you what, I'll introduce you. How about that? And then you can hit that mute all, and then we can take it from there. How about that? Unless you want to mute me, I completely understand.
No way.
I think my wife wants that function for me, just to hit mute. Anyway, we're really excited to have Carl Carter with us today from the Beverly Carter Foundation. He's going to talk about realtor safety today. If you don't know the Beverly Carter story, please take a look at it and go to their website and donate, beverlycarterfoundation.org. Is that correct, Carl? Yep. Okay. Yeah. Please go and donate. They do some incredible work with realtor safety. And also if you go to stewart.com/safety, there's some wonderful resources on there. Carl did a bunch of videos for us, which we so appreciate. Yeah. Anyway, this is part of our series of when we come out on the other side of this, we're going to be much, much better off. So Carl, I'm going to let you mute everybody, and then I'll let you take it away. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. Hi, how are you?
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Can I get a thumbs up that you can hear me? All right. Awesome. Well, I'm so honored to do this. I'm so thankful for Stewart Title and all they've done to support the Beverly Carter Foundation. As Andy mentioned, we have partnered on a number of training events and training, a ton of training videos. And as soon as I'm able to travel again and Stewart Title down in Houston gets back to functioning, I'll actually be making the trip down to Houston, and we'll be doing another series of videos all related to safety. So I can't thank Stewart enough for everything that they've done. I'm going to attempt, I am not an expert at this this sharing of screens, but I want to share with you my sweet mom. And my mom is, of course, what started the foundation for us is the tragic loss of her. And there we go. So you can see that beautiful lady there on the screen is my mom. And we lost her to a violent crime against an agent. September will be 6 years since we lost my mom. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about her and her story today. I'm so thankful that you're taking time out of your day to listen to me tell her story and talk to you about safety. I know it's not, it's not a sexy topic, but it's very timely. You may have seen, I think we're all probably spending more time on the internet and digesting the news and social media. And you can see that, just because some of us are so deeply affected in our business by this virus, the bad guys are still hard at work, unfortunately. Just I think a little over a week ago, we saw that an agent's car was stolen during a home inspection. And so we always have to keep our guard up, unfortunately, because not everyone has the same intentions that we do. To share with you a little bit about my sweet mom, you can see there on the screen that at the time that she was taken from us, she had been married to my dad for about 34 years. And she was a mom to 3 boys. So, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And she had me when she was 16. And I always joke, I'm so used to giving these presentations face to face, and but I always joke that as I travel the country, sharing these photos of my mom, that if it's possible to be mad in heaven, she's mad that I'm showing this picture from the early 80s. But you can see we kind of, in some ways, I kind of joke that we grew up together because we were quite close in age. She was 16 when she had me, and you can see there on the right, she was a beloved grandma. It's very tough navigating life without my mom, and explaining to my kids that what happened to their grandma that they loved so much. But we'll never know why my mom was targeted specifically. But we do know two things, and we know this from various interviews and testimonies from the bad guys themselves. So the bad guys in my mom's situation were a husband and wife, and they perceived my mom to be a rich broker, and they targeted her in large due to the fact that she worked alone. And, you know, I'll just tell you that my mom, although she was a successful agent, she was, you know, far from rich. And you all can probably empathize with the fact that just because we work in this industry, you know, regardless if you're an agent or you work in title or whatever it is, just being in this industry, there's just this assumption that you are just wildly rich. And I hope for your sake that you are, but you know, my real estate career is not just booming, but I'll tell you, just because I have that R by my name, there is an assumption by the public that I'm wildly rich. It's why we see these real estate pre-licensure courses. They're full every weekend because people want to become an agent, become so rich. And so it's an uncomfortable truth that we just have to face, is that the very reasons why my mom was targeted applied to all of us. It's the perception of wealth and the fact that we do find ourselves working alone at times. And I'll tell you, like these bad people, because of this perception and the line of work that she did, they thought that they could get her alone, kidnap her, and hold her for ransom. And evidence was found on the laptop of these bad people when the detectives went into their home and seized their laptop that they had done a number of internet searches. And so when you hear people talk about, you know, doing your due diligence with safety, they'll talk about, you know, when you're working with someone new to screen them with every resource you have available, up to and including internet searches. And, you know, it's eerie to think that these bad guys did those same things with my mom. They had done a number of internet searches on her. They had gone to her Facebook profile, which, you know, for most of us in real estate, we keep our profiles public because we want to be accessible to the communities we serve. And so these bad guys not only saw her Google, everything they could find through Google, but they also saw, you know, a side of her personal life and vacation photos. And they also, and this is really kind of one of the most eeriest things about what they did with searching, is that they actually took my mom's name and they went to county records and they did a search on her name to find out where she lived and the property value of the home that she lived in. And so they were really trying to do everything they could do to identify, you know, to say, does she have the wealth we think she has? Is she married? Because we're going to need someone to get this ransom money from. And so, you know, any of those things could be done on any of us. And so I think that that's why my mom's story resonates with so many people, is because, you know, unfortunately, my mom found herself in a position that it could have been any of us. This is the property where my mom was taken from us. And I intentionally, you know, show the exterior of this house, and I've got the street address and a brief property description. And I do that just to further the point that this was just another appointment. This was just another day. And, you know, it was just another house. And if you don't mind, I'd like to back up. Just, you know, this wasn't just a phone call, jump in the car, go show a property. This was a series of events, multiple days that led up to the showing of this property. And so if you put yourself in this position, imagine today that you get a call or you begin receiving phone calls, text, and emails from a new lead. And you're talking and texting and emailing a husband and a wife. Their story is that they're relocating to your area. They're moving because of work. They're cash buyers. They are in kind of a temporary housing situation. They really want to get in a, in their home or in a home as soon as possible. And so the conversation went. And as my mom interacted with them via phone call and text, she was interacting with a phone number that was out of state, that matched, that the area code matched the state that they said they were moving from. But what my mom didn't know is that, and if you think back, it's kind of hard to remember, but in the end of 2014, we weren't plagued with deceptive phone numbers like we are now. It's crazy because, being in this industry, we want to, especially answer every local call that comes across. But, we find ourselves in a position now that, half the calls we get from local numbers, there's nothing local about that. So this idea of a spoof number wasn't as mainstream as it is today. But my mom had no idea that these bad people had downloaded an app called Text Me, and it provided them a fake number. So as they called her, as they text her and interacted with her and built this lie about how they were interested in buying the property, it was all flowing through that app and giving the appearance that they were from out of state when all the while they were just right across town. And just a reminder, a safety reminder for all of us, is that they had used the fictitious names that they gave my mom when they created their email address. And so just be reminded that anyone can set up an account with email account with any name they want to for these, free Gmail, Yahoo accounts. So don't let a name and an email address necessarily be a point of your client identification validation process. Still remain skeptical on that piece. But interestingly, my mom, when she was trying to find them a property, she was having a tough time finding a property that matched what they had said, what they were interested in. And so she had done another great safety tip, is that my mom kept a file on all of her clients. And she had kept a client profile form. And so that's another one of the great things that we worked with Stuart to develop, is just so that we are consistently screening our clients. And so, and it's just good service too. You have everything about that client, kids' names and, important dates or important things that you want to remember as you're building that relationship. And it's also good from a safety perspective too. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was found here at the scene of this crime in the passenger seat of my mom's car. And it was that paper client file where my mom had written down, taken such good notes, not realizing that everything that she'd been told was a lie. And so, in her process of trying to get to find a home for this couple, she had talked them up a lot with other agents, like we all do, right? Hey guys, I'm trying to find something, the inventory is low, or I'm not finding exactly what they're interested in. Do you know of something that's going to hit the market soon? And so she had really talked up her service of this couple among other agents in the office. And of course, just like you all, we don't, when we're not all, so blessed that whenever we leave work, we leave it there. Our poor spouses have to hear the ins and outs of our days and our deals. And so my mom had talked about this couple a lot, and their story. My dad was very familiar with, everything that had been told to my mom about this couple. And so you can imagine what it was like when my mom went missing, that, so many people, almost every agent in my mom's office had their version of events, because my mom had been talking to them about this couple and how she could best serve them, get them into a home. So, always good, right, to let other people know what your deals are, who you're working with. But a missing piece here is that while, everything that I've told you up to this point about this story, there has been no in-person meeting yet, and there has been no exchange of identification. It's just been phone calls, text, emails. Now, where this story, really, I think resonates with a lot of people is that because my mom was talking to a husband and a wife. And so we have, many of us, I'm not going to say we all do, but many of us have, these preconceived notions that a bad guy fits a certain profile, and usually a bad guy, he's called a bad guy, right? It's a guy. And we don't associate scary situations or violence with women. So we just, it seemed safe because how many times do we do this? And, when I kind of hate that I'm not able to be with you all right now because, that's typically where we kind of pause this story in the room and you see agents say, oh my gosh, how often am I working with a husband and wife? The first time we meet is at a property and I don't think anything about it because I'm working with a wife. But this particular house, the decision, the request to view this particular property came from the bad guys themselves. And, interestingly, this particular property was in the same community where my mom lived. And so my mom is very familiar with this property. It had been vacant for years, foreclosed property, been issues of squatters. There have been, just gross people had gotten in there and, even down to, just stealing everything of value. All the way down to the copper. And so while it might look pretty on the outside, the inside was a complete mess. And to that point, my mom knew that based on what this couple had told her, that this property is going to need a lot of work. This is not the property for someone that just wants to get into a new home quickly. And so for that reason, we know that was probably a point of some hesitance in wanting to show this particular property. But unfortunately, this property had a really poor online presence. There were only about 4 or 5 photos of this property online. It showed, this pretty photo of the exterior, which was taken long, back when the landscaping had been done, before the grass was knee high, and just a couple of photos that were of the interior of this home had been taken with a really old cell phone or something, and they were dark and you just couldn't tell. And so that really probably, made it difficult for my mom to, dissuade this couple from wanting to see this property. Not only was this, it's a little hard to tell if you look to the left of the home there. This is lakefront property. Sits on these homes on this road sit on half-acre lots. Just a few doors down was where my mom's pastor of her church lived. I know this will sound kind of cheeky and it sounds like every crime show ever, but truly it's a sleepy, nice street, a community where people, are, they kind of brag about not having to lock their doors. And I hate to even hear myself say that, but it's true. So when the bad guy, and I apologize, it's just what I call them. I don't call them by their names. So when the bad guy called my mom to request to see this property, we know that she was thinking, ugh, what a waste of time, right? And then also we can assume maybe some other things happened too. Maybe it wasn't just that my mom knew that this property wasn't going to be for them. Maybe it was the tone of voice of the husband. But something about that particular phone call gave my mom pause. We can speculate that in that pause, maybe, it was that instinct that something wasn't quite right. And we know that because in that phone call, my mom, on the spot, made up a company policy. And I hope that we will all follow my mom's lead in this if we ever find ourselves uncomfortable and our words are failing us. And that is that, if you don't feel empowered or, quick-witted enough to come up with a response, do what my mom did, and that's blame it on the brokerage. My mom, and how she did that is she said, I'm so sorry. The company policy prohibits me from showing property alone in a rural area. And that's a great safety tip. But what my mom didn't anticipate, and how many of us would, this is back to the point I made earlier, is what do you do then when the husband hands the phone to the wife and the wife assures you that she will be at the showing as well? She'll be coming separately from work. And then they make the ask, would your brokerage be okay with that? And so this is where we kind of do that collective, yeah, right? I mean, it sounds pretty good. But keep in mind, this property would be the first time everyone would meet face to face. No exchange of ID. My sweet, precious mom had, she was just attempting to serve them, attempting to help them. She had no idea that the husband was a 7-time felon. Had spent a lot of time in prison. She had no idea that they planned to kidnap her at this property. No idea that they planned to hold her for ransom. And I want to tell you a little bit about that plan because it wasn't quite like the movies. They thought they had a sophisticated way to get this money, this perceived, and trust me, it was perceived money from our family. And that was that they would, when they kidnapped my mom, they would also have her purse. And then they would record my mom. And so it would be my mom in videos that would be delivered to my dad via that spoof telephone number. And so in these videos, my mom would be instructing my dad on how to move all of this family wealth to cards, or I should say to accounts that were accessible with the cards in my mom's purse. And, if you're shaking your head now, trust me, I get it. It's not a smart plan, but that was their plan nonetheless. To further that, I'll pick that back up and I'll tell you where that fell apart in just a moment. But my mom agreed to show them the property, and she told them another safety tip. We learned so much from my sweet mom. And this is where I want to pause and just say, my mom did so many things right, but it wasn't enough in this situation to save her life. And that's why it's so important for us to kind of keep looking at safety and looking at the ways that these bad people are trying to trick us, because there isn't just one thing or one scenario that we can prepare for that's going to keep us safe at all times. But my mom did tell them that she would need to set the appointment for 6 p.m., no later than 6 p.m., because this was the time of year in late September when the days start getting shorter, and there, of course, were no utilities at this property. And so my mom got to this property early, another good safety tip, and we could speculate that time could be used, right, for just doing a quick investigation of sorts, just to make sure that the property is in good, safe condition, no issues of squatters, no one lurking about, dogs, etc. So we can take time to be reminded of that. But what happened at 6 p.m. is that a black car pulls into the driveway. A young Caucasian male with dark hair got out of the vehicle and approached my mom. And, I get emotional about this particular, a lot of it, but knowing that my sweet mom was there to meet this couple, and knowing how, and I know you don't know her, but to know how sweet and beautiful and she was. And you know, maybe it's small of me, but I hope that her preciousness and that her kindness that day haunts these awful people. But as this man, this bad guy, approaches my mom, he begins apologizing and making a request. And his apology was that he's so sorry, but the wife got caught up at work. The wife was not going to be available to meet them for the show. And then he followed that with a request. And that was that my mom would tour the property with him, and that my mom would take photos and send them to the wife via text, because there was such few awful photos online. This would be a way that the wife could see the interior of the home, and it would be like she was on the showing, at least digitally. And about that same time, we know that evidence was found on my mom's phone, that the wife began texting my mom. And she began, you know, she made the same request, you know, with the apology and would my mom be so kind as to do this? And so my sweet mom agreed to show the property and to take the photos. And I'll tell you, one of the eeriest things is that at the conclusion of the trial, we got my mom's phone back, and my mom's phone had been found in this bad guy's home. And the last 10 photos on the camera roll were of the interior of this home. My mom had no idea that she was essentially documenting her last moments of freedom. And you may be wondering, like, what is this awkward photo on the bottom right of this screen? And this photo represents the very last moment of my mom's freedom. This is the very last photo that was on my mom's camera roll. It was in this moment that the bad guy put a taser into my mom's side. He caught her by surprise. He has been very proud to admit multiple times that the last words that my mom heard in her freedom is that you're about to have a very bad day. He tased my mom. He had with him the most ridiculous lime green duct tape, just like this. Those of you with kids know, you know, so many of our kids take this silly tape and use it for craft projects. But this tape was used to bind my mom's legs together at her ankles, her hands behind her back, entirely around her head over her mouth, and entirely around her head over her eyes. The bad guy then went outside and got in his car, turned it around, backed it up to the front of his house, opened the trunk, and went back inside. And I've said two things very intentionally. One was that the black car arrived at 6 p.m., young Caucasian male with dark hair, and then what I just told you about, moments later coming back outside, getting in the car, turning it around, backing it up, opening the trunk. I said those things very intentionally because later that evening, as detectives were going neighbor to neighbor, asking if anyone had seen anything or knew anything about the disappearance of a local real estate agent, it was then that a neighbor said that they had seen all of what I just told you happened. And I think it's a really powerful reminder for all of us. And I hope that tonight that, you know, as you are with your loved ones around your dinner table, that this is an opportunity for you, you know, for everyone that's not in, you know, not just in real estate, but for us, those of us that when we see something suspicious, that we say something, that we document it, that we take a quick photo, whatever it is, can make such a big difference. That bad guy put my sweet mom in the trunk of his car. And I'll tell you, it's one thing to see the crime shows and the movies, and I will admit that I never gave much thought to seeing an actor, put in the trunk of a car, or what that would be like. But it is a very different thing when you know that your mom, we all love our mamas. Mother's Day's coming up, and our moms are our first love. Knowing that is very, very tough and very haunting. And knowing that someone is capable of doing that. And not only capable of doing that, but before even closing the lid of that trunk, pulling out his cell phone and taking a picture of my mom in the trunk of that car and texting it to his wife. We assume that he did that because he wanted to, show his wife that their plan was in motion. And he closed that lid and he drove off, and he took my mom to another area and made my mom do a recording of, the first of what would be a series of videos telling my dad how and what to do with the ransom money. You'll remember earlier that I told you their plan was to have my dad move wealth, perceived wealth, to accounts that were accessible via cards in my mom's purse. And ladies and gentlemen too, we all know this from safety and security training that we've had in this industry, or maybe just for efficiency. We don't show property with a purse on your shoulder, right? It's not only from a safety security reason, but it's just in the way. And so many brokerages, a best practice that's listed is to leave your purse locked in your car. And so my mom did that. And so in his haste to take my mom, to kidnap my mom, to put her in the trunk of that car, he forgot the one thing that he needed in order to be able to get the money. He forgot the purse. And so it wasn't until much later, whenever he had taken my mom back to his own home. So the bad guys had my mom in their home. They had locked her in the bathroom, the master bathroom of their home. And it was at that point that they had this realization that our plan won't work. We don't have the purse. We can't get the money. And, by that point, my dad had called me concerned, worried about mom not replying to his calls or his texts. She had told him that after she finished a realtor affiliate lunch, that she was going to do some things in the office, and then she was going to show this property, and then she was going to pick up food on the way home. And so he was concerned because it was getting late and he wasn't hearing anything back. And so, me, I'm like a real estate kid, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of on the other end of the phone, like, come on, Dad, like, this is, no news from a real estate agent is usually a great thing. She's writing a contract, something great's happening. But unfortunately, we found ourselves, because she had told him specifically where she would be showing property, just another good safety tip, we knew exactly where to go. And so my dad arrived at that house to find it pitch black, to find my mom's car in the driveway with my mom's belongings, including her purse, in it. From there, we had no idea, that more and more the later it got, more and more detectives were arriving on the scene, and more cop cars, and the entire neighborhood is just kind of in very flashing shades of blue, and we had no idea that night, and how could we have known, that the bad guy himself actually had left my mom locked in their master bathroom and left the wife to stand guard outside that door with a firearm, as he came back to the scene of the crime in an attempt to get the purse. And so that night, as we were all standing there, we had no idea that he was just right there, so close to us, trying to get that purse. And this is one thing, that the big leap from kidnapping for ransom to let's make this all go away like it never happened and end her life. And I know that's a leap that we can't even understand how any of it, right? Thank God we can't relate to it. But like so many of these criminals, they think they have the best, the brightest plan. They're going to get away with it. And then they see blue lights and they don't want to go back to prison, and they take a bad decision and just amplify it because they realize that their plan wasn't as brilliant as they thought. That night, we didn't realize that it was just moments after my mom, or that bad guy had come back out to the scene of the crime to get my mom's purse. We didn't realize that the two things were related. But my dad began getting text from my mom. And you'll remember that the appointment was on Thursday at 6 p.m. So we're 6 hours later into the early morning of Friday. And my mom begins texting my dad, or at least that's what we thought. And then that third text came through, and we went from relief, excitement. Honestly, I was a little bit embarrassed because I was like, oh my goodness, all these cops are involved, and gosh, Mom, you've got a lot of explaining to do. And then that last text came in, and if you knew my mom, you would know, we knew instantly that someone had her phone and someone was pretending to be her. And so we went while everything up to this point, we were trying to rack our brains around real estate scenarios that made her okay. And of course, the later it got, the fewer we could come up with. But in this moment, this text, it solidified that she had been taken and someone was pretending to be her. This timeline is what an eternity looks like. This is the time that my mom was missing from that appointment. My mom's body was found in the early morning hours of Tuesday, September the 30th. As much as I hate to look back and think back on what this horrible time was like, and the uncertainty and the confusion of it, this timeline also represents really kind of a love story from our family to the real estate industry, because it was during this time and beyond really that the real estate industry stepped up for their own. And we see this time and time again through natural disasters, or even we see so many amazing realtors right now that are making sure that people have food in their bellies in us dealing with this virus. But it was real estate agents that were walking through fields like this one, that searching for any clue about where my mom may be. If you're not familiar with farmland like this, these soybean fields it's lowland, it's muddy, it's murky, there's snakes and rats. And so not only are these amazing agents braving these awful fields, but at any moment, they could have stumbled upon my mom. And so it was so selfless. And I will forever give so much credit to the entire industry across the nation, because I really feel like the industry as a whole would not accept that she wasn't found, and that there was justice. Please know how thankful our family is. It was actually real estate agents that showed up on my doorstep in the early morning hours of Tuesday, September 30th, to deliver the news to me that my mom's body had been found in a shallow grave. This is a picture from my mom's birthday party. My mom was 50 years old when she was taken from us, and this was her 50th birthday party. You can see my dad there on the left, and my brother to my right. But I like this slide because it reminds me of my mother's, a fun night from the photo, but then also what you see there in quotations is that that video that my mom was made to record was never actually delivered to my dad, but we later heard it because the bad guy played it during the interrogation process as part of a bargaining chip. And the words that my mom spoke to my dad, where my dad's name is also Carl, is, "Hey Carl, it's me. Just want to let you know that I haven't been hurt. Just do what he says and don't call the cops. If you call the cops, it could get bad." And to me, the most important thing were her last words. And that is, "I just want you to know I love you very much." And my mom, just moments after being kidnapped and put in the trunk of a car and made to do this video, was still concerned with my dad knowing how loved he was. My mom also, evidence was found in the trunk of that same car that my mom had gotten her hands free. So she was fighting for her freedom, and that inspires me. We also found out later during the trial that my mom, that the wife of this husband and wife that took mom, continued to that day to be haunted by the sounds of my mother's prayers while my mom was locked in that bathroom. This is the spot, the backside of a what I call a concrete plant, where they store concrete trucks and wash them out after jobs. This is where the bad guys brought my mom. And knowing they were going to end her life, they just decided to get from her whatever they could of value. My mom had $50 in her pocket that she had won that day at the realtor, affiliate luncheon. And these people were just gross. They took my mom's jewelry. They just awful. And they brought my mom here, and just quickly, I will say, they used the same tape that my mom was bound with to apply it to her face until my sweet mom suffocated. Video footage was found at a local retail store of them purchasing a shovel, and they came back and buried her in the spot. We were very fortunate that my mom's body was found. We were also very fortunate there was at least some sort of justice. The wife took a plea deal. So in exchange for her truthful testimony against her husband, she is in prison. She got a 30-year sentence with the possibility of parole in 21 years. Just recently, we found out that she has applied for clemency, which highly unlikely that she'll be granted clemency by our governor. That the clemency board will meet in early July. And so once again, real estate agents have stepped up, and they've been writing letters that I'm submitting with mine, and I have a box full of letters. So if you'd like to write a letter, certainly welcome that. The husband received 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole for kidnapping and capital murder. I've been back to the courtroom many times with him. He's sued the interrogators for being too rough. He sued the prison guards for being too rough. He has appealed the decision in my mom's case to the Arkansas Supreme Court. And most recently, and this will make you shake your head, even it's just from within prison, he has been able to identify African-American judges across the United States. And from within prison, he has been able to write them death threats. And he's doing that in hopes of catching a federal charge and getting to go to a federal prison. So anyway, I'm glad that they can no longer hurt people, but you think these things will just go away, and it's kind of our new normal. If we can just think back, and I'll just quickly go through these, a few takeaways from my mom's story. And by the way, if any of you want these slides, I'm happy to email them to you, and maybe when business gets back to normal, or if you want to do your own Zoom, you're welcome to take a few of these slides and talk to your team members about it. Bad guys fit no definable profile. Remember the point about the wife, and this couple, they both, everybody looks guilty in a head, mugshot, but those aside, when I see photos of this couple prior to their arrest, they were young and attractive. Certainly not people that you would think were capable of such a crime. Insist upon an in-person pre-showing buyer consultation in a public place. Obtain ID, share it with colleagues, keep it in a secure location. Use the internet. Share your itinerary and your location. Trust your instincts. I always go back to the point when my mom was standing outside that house that day and she had to make a decision. I know my mom had that feeling in her gut because they asked her to change the plan that they had already previously agreed to. So I hope that you'll think of my mom the next time you feel that rise in your instinct, and get out of there. Keep yourself safe. Keep your back to the door as much as you can. So many agents, not just my mom. We hear that this is one thing that we hear a lot in agent safety, but so many stories of victimization that's been shared with me through the years have been due to an agent getting trapped in a room or an agent getting assaulted from behind by surprise. And of course, if you see something, say something. Hope you will keep the conversation going. Out on our website that Andy already told you about, we have this pledge. It's a great opportunity just to enter into a contract with yourself, right? Just to level set, and especially as we're all, are raring to get back to work and get back to as much of normalcy as we can. Just want to make sure that we are doing that as safe as possible. We are on social media, and we try to update it with helpful information, not only about stories of agents that have been victimized, like my sweet mom, but also just quick little tips, just to help keep safety, not just constantly barraging people with it, but just enough to keep it top of mind. CE Shop has made their training, safety training free, so you can always take that. NAR has a safety site. Stewart Title has a dedicated safety section with a ton of great videos and things that you can print, like the client ID form and an open house checklist that's really great. These are things from NAR. I won't read those to you, but of course those are available out on NAR's website. And this is the last slide. These are my kiddos as they were 5.5 years ago. They're a lot bigger than this now, but I always close my presentation with this slide, and if you'll just allow me to make this last picture symbolic. And this picture was taken 1 week to the day prior to my mom being taken from us. We had, of course, no idea how much our lives would change the next week. We had been out for a run, and we had a game that we played that we would take pictures with her signs, her listings, and send them to her. And this particular one, that week before, we put on her Facebook wall. And if you'll allow me just to make this representative of you and your life, your career. If you think of that for sale sign, your commitment to your career, which is evidenced by you investing in yourself and listening to a safety presentation, I just hope that in some small way that my words can help you be more mindful of the people on the periphery of your career. You know, just like my kids are here, you know, you have loved ones and friends that so desperately need you to come home safely every day. You see my email address listed there on the screen. Please reach out to me at any time. I'm always happy to share resources or to support you. And with that, I will see about unmuting.
Oh, I'm unmuted, Carl, I think. Can you hear me?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Carl, thank you so much. It's moving as always and so helpful. You know, especially during these times when we're at home. I mean, please brush up. That's a great list of things that Carl had. If you would like a recording of this, contact me or contact your BDO. I'd be happy to get that out to you. But wow, Carl, I can't thank you enough. And again, please donate to the Beverly Carter Foundation. It's such a worthwhile foundation, and we appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
All right, everyone, please stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone.
Just crazy. Yeah, we've been good. I mean, I'm home.